Hi, and welcome to Mormon Facts. The topic of polygamy in the LDS Church is such an enormous subject that it would be impossible to cover every aspect in a single video. This video reviews polygamy in a timeline format so as to better understand how the doctrine and teachings of polygamy have shifted and changed within the LDS Church from the mid-1830s to today. At an early age, Joseph Smith was extremely intimate with the Bible. So much so that at a very young age, he had memorized major sections of the book. In his research, he would often stumble on teachings in the Bible of ancient prophets being commanded to take multiple wives or concubines. These sections of the Bible seemed to weigh on Joseph's mind so often that verse 1 of section 132 of Doctrine and Covenants begins with the following: "Inasmuch as you have inquired of my hand to know and understand wherein I, the Lord, justified my servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as also Moses, David, and Solomon, my servants, as touching the principle and doctrine of their having many wives and concubines." In 1833, Joseph Smith had an extramarital affair with a 15-year-old girl named Fanny Alger, and it appears as though he used the practice of polygamy as a method to help explain his affair to his wife, Emma Smith. Because of Joseph's relationship with Fanny Alger, a revelation was presented to the LDS General Assembly titled Chapter of Rules for Marriage Among the Saints. In part, the article reads, "Inasmuch as this Church of Christ has been reproached with polygamy, we declare that we believe that one man should have one wife." The Church canonized the article and included it in Doctrine and Covenants as section 101 with the title Article of Marriage. During this period, the Church publicly taught that polygamy was not of God and that monogamy was God's true law. In the Book of Mormon, in Jacob 2:27, it reads, "For there shall not any man among you have save it be one wife, and concubines he shall have none." However, a verse later it reads, "For if I will, saith the Lord of hosts, raise up seed unto me, I will command my people, otherwise they shall hearken unto these things." Despite these very public denunciations, the practice of polygamy was actually taking place among early church leaders in secret. In 1842, excommunicated church leader John C. Bennett published a tell-all expose concerning polygamy titled History of the Saints. In the expose, John C. Bennett gave detailed accounts of Joseph Smith's plural marriages to multiple women. Because of these accusations and others, Joseph Smith gave a speech to a large congregation where he said, "What a thing it is for a man to be accused of committing adultery and having 7 wives when I can only find one. I am the same man and as innocent as I was 14 years ago, and I can prove them all perjurers." In reality, Joseph Smith was married to at least 33 wives at the time of this speech. The majority of the general church membership at the time seemed to truly believe that polygamy were lies propagated by the church's enemies, and some of that belief still continues to persist to today. It wasn't until 1852, 5 years after the Saints had settled in the Utah Territory, when Brigham Young officially announced the practice of polygamy as divine doctrine and should be practiced by select LDS church members. This announcement ended an 18-year period of secret polygamy practice within the LDS Church. However, 12 years after Brigham Young's public announcement, the Book of Doctrine and Covenants was republished, and section 101 of Articles of Marriage denouncing polygamy remained as doctrine. In fact, the Articles of Marriage remained a part of Doctrine and Covenants for 24 years, during which time polygamy was publicly practiced. In 1876, the now famous section 132 on polygamy was formally canonized and included in the new version of Doctrine and Covenants. At this point, section 101 was removed, and since that date has not been considered canon. After the church publicly condoned polygamy, the proverbial floodgates were opened to allow church leaders to sing the praises of polygamy and denounce monogamy. Apostle George A. Smith said, "If they, non-Mormons, envy us our position, well they may, for they are a poor, narrow-minded, pinch-backed race of men who chain themselves down to the law of monogamy and live all their days under the dominion of one wife. They ought to be ashamed of such conduct." Apostle Orson Pratt stated that Jesus Christ was a polygamist. It will be seen that the great Messiah, who was the founder of the Christian religion, was a polygamist. The Messiah chose, by marrying many honorable wives himself, show to all future generations that he approbated the plurality of wives under the Christian dispensation. Despite these very public endorsements of polygamy, not all members of the church practiced polygamy. It is estimated that between 20 and 30% of Latter-day Saint families at the time practiced polygamy. However, these public teachings of polygamy did not go unnoticed by the United States government, which began to put pressure on the LDS Church to denounce the practice. In 1880, Apostle John Taylor said, "Polygamy is a divine institution. It has been handed down direct from God. The United States cannot abolish it. No nation on earth can prevent it, nor all nations of the earth combined. I defy the United States. I will obey God." Because Utah was a U.S. territory, many U.S. citizens felt outraged by polygamy and began to pressure the government to act to abolish the practice. In 1887, the U.S. issued the Edmunds-Tucker Act. The act read in part, "The destiny of the nation rests upon our homes, established by the law of God, guarded by parental care, regulated by parental authority, and sanctified by parental love." These are not the homes of polygamy. There is no feature of this practice or the system which sanctions it, which is not opposed to all that is of value in our institutions. Feeling threatened by this new U.S. law, Apostle Wilford Woodruff said that if the church did not practice polygamy, then the entire structure of the church would crumble. If we were to do away with polygamy, then we must do away with prophets and apostles, with revelation and the gifts and graces of the gospel, and finally give up our religion altogether and turn sectarians and do as the world does. The LDS Church appealed the act to the Supreme Court, but the act was upheld in 1890, at which time the U.S. government disincorporated the LDS Church, and the U.S. government transferred the church's assets to the state. The value of the church-owned assets at the time was $3 million, which is estimated to be $81 million in today's value. In another statement, Wilford Woodruff said, "We will not end the practice of plural marriage until the coming of the Son of Man." U.S. pressure continued, and many prominent church leaders began to be arrested by the U.S. government. These and many other pressures from the U.S. government finally wore down the church until finally the church president Wilford Woodruff issued the now famous 1890 Manifesto, declaring that the church would officially stop the practice of polygamy. In part, it reads, "Inasmuch as laws have been enacted by Congress forbidding plural marriage, which laws have been pronounced constitutional by the court of last resort, I hereby declare my intention to submit to those laws, to use my influence with the members of the church over which I preside to have them do likewise. There is nothing in my teachings to the church or in those of my associates during the time specified which can be reasonably construed to inculcate or encourage polygamy, and when any elder of the church has used language which appears to convey such teaching, he has been promptly reproved. And now I publicly declare that my advice to the Latter-day Saints is to refrain from contracting any marriage forbidden by the law of the land." The manifesto was read and sustained on October 6, 1890, although one modern author is quoted saying, "At least some voted against the manifesto and perhaps a majority abstained." Some members, including Apostle Moses Thatcher, only reluctantly supported the manifesto and interpreted it as a sign that the second coming of Jesus was imminent, after which plural marriage would be reinstated. In blatant disobedience to the church's new official stance, many LDS members continued to enter into plural marriages. So common was the practice that in 1904, Church President Joseph F. Smith wrote what has been referred to as the Second Manifesto, which included provisions for the church to take action against those who continue to perform plural marriages. Despite these repeated denunciations of the practice, Section 132 in the Doctrine of Polygamy continues to be included in Doctrine and Covenants, where it remains today. The 1890 Manifesto caused a very major rift in the church, after which a splinter group calling themselves the Fundamental Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was created almost specifically so that they could continue the practice of polygamy. It is estimated that there are 50,000 fundamentalist Mormons practicing polygamy in the United States today, the most famous of which is the FLDS prophet Warren Jeffs, which has been in the media and in the public eye since his arrest in 2006. The majority of the FLDS hold to the firm belief that they are practicing plural marriage to obey a commandment originated from God and revealed to Joseph Smith. The mainstream LDS Church works hard to distance itself from the FLDS, with the sentiment shared on the other side. The FLDS believe that they are the pure Latter-day Saints, and the mainstream LDS Church is the great and abominable. Today, the subject of polygamy is a very confusing matter. Modern LDS members believe that God is a polygamist, and that polygamy is and will continue to be practiced in heaven and during the millennium. Today, LDS men are able to be sealed to more than one woman after the death of their wife, but women are only able to be temple sealed once. In this way, the practice of polygamy is still being practiced right now in temples, as LDS men are sealed to more than one woman after their spouse dies. Modern apostle Dallin H. Oaks has been sealed to a second woman, as well as the current church president Russell M. Nelson. The question that exists now within the church is whether the church no longer practices polygamy because it is against U.S. law, and whether the practice would return if law allowed. The question is impossible to answer definitively. However, in 1998, Gordon B. Hinckley appeared on Larry King Live where he said the following.
Should the church be more forceful in speaking out? I mean, you're forceful here tonight, but maybe in saying that it's rather than just a state matter, encouraging the state to prosecute.
I don't know. We'll consider that.
I'm giving you an idea.
Yeah,
Would you look better if you were?
I don't know that we would or not. As far as I'm concerned, I have nothing to do with it. It belongs to the civil officers of the state.
You condemn it.
I condemn it, yes, as a practice because I think it is not doctrinal, it is not legal, and this church takes the position that we will abide by the law.
Today, the teaching and discussion of polygamy in the church is very taboo, and learning or reciting facts about polygamy in early church history is often seen as anti-Mormon. Many LDS members know that polygamy was practiced in the early church history, but don't know the full extent of that history. The modern LDS Church even goes as far as to whitewash their history, to hide or even cover up unsettling facts about polygamy. As of the creation of this video, the current Doctrine and Covenants lesson plan discussing Section 132 has a note to the teachers saying, "The following information is provided to help you address questions class members may have about the practice of plural marriage. This topic should not be the focus of the lesson." Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button and subscribe to be updated with more videos from Mormon Facts.